Yes, I can proceed. We are so happy as the United National Independence Party to see His Excellency President Mr. Hakainde Hichilema taking this nation on a path to a fairer, more egalitarian society where all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. The president is taking us on that path. And already we can see some landmarks. The president is doing a pretty good job, which we as the United National Independence Party are supporting. Some of the landmarks on this path for a fairer, egalitarian society are issues to do with job creation, issues to do with free education, issues to do with the CDF. And these are issues which are closer to the heart of the United National Independence Party. And recently, the president is talking about amendments to be made in Parliament, which will support proportional representation. These are issues that are dear to the United National Independence Party, and we would like to commend the president, and we would like to assure the president and the UPND that they have the backing and support of the United National Independence Party. Let me just mention a little bit here regarding the practicality of the policies of our dear president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Regarding job creation, I'm not only the coordinator for the National Independence Party, I also sit on the board of Shine Zambia, a charity that is educating vulnerable children how to read and write and to be numerate. So far, through the charity, over 1,000 students have graduated. I'll just single out 3 whom Shine Zambia have sponsored for free of charge, and these students have even reached tertiary education, have achieved tertiary education, even graduated, but they had no job. These were vulnerable children from Kalikiliki compound. Isaac Piri, I'll single out Elias Shakwamba, I'll single out Diana Zulu. Through the good policies of the president, Elias Shakwamba is now working as a ZNS officer. Diana Zulu is now working as a nurse. And Isaac Piri is now working for the local government in Ndola as an environmentalist. These are kids from Kalikiliki compound. I want to mention here that UNIP, one of the objectives of UNIP, according to Article 5 of our party constitution, and sabbatical 6, I'll read out. This article states, to foster and promote multi-party and plural democracy and to work towards the establishment of proportional representation electoral system. This is in the UNIP Constitution. Dating back, we have been advocating for the inclusion of youths, women, and the differently abled. We have taken part in a number of constitutional review, processes. I remember prior to the Debunking, I led a delegation of UNIP officials to submit our submissions regarding the need for proportional representation. By the way, I also attended the bulletin. I represented UNIP. And our major preoccupation during that conference was to see to it that proportional representation is achieved. We are consistent. Even now, we are so glad and so delighted to see the president making this proportional, this proposition that the Constitution should be amended to take into account this aspect. And as United National Independence Party, in tandem with our objective in the Constitution, we are supporting this amendment, and we urge the president and team to go ahead. We don't have time. We have procrastinated for a long time. We don't need to procrastinate anymore. Procrastination is a thief of time. So please, we urge all well-meaning Zambians. And at this juncture, I would like to commend the youths who have come out to support this proposition. So we as UNIP, we are in it. And we hope and pray that this process is finalized before the next election. And finally, let me also state that our Constitution, Article 10 of Article 5, which talks about the objectives of the party. I'll read this article. It states, to empower people to run their own affairs through a system of political and economic decentralization and self-reliance. Once again, we commend His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, who is achieving this objective through CDF. We have seen how CDF has empowered communities. And this is from the UNIP Constitution. That's the reason why we are supporting His Excellency and the UPND. That's the reason why the United National Independence Party, through its structures, has resolved to go in this election. The United National Independence Party has resolved to go into an alliance with the UPND. Because the policies of this president and the UPND, they resonate with our policies. So we commend the president for empowering communities through CDF. My national chairman is here, and in the next, you members of the press, you witness that ceremony in the next few or so weeks. Our president and the Republican president, we hope it's done as soon as possible. We want to see that this ceremony to consummate this working relationship is done as soon as possible. In a nutshell, we are here as UNIP to state our official position as a party, that we are supporting the proposition regarding the constitutional amendments for proportional representation. We are supporting it. We are also encouraging the president to continue doing what he is doing in the areas that are improving the areas of human endeavor. We thank you.
I recognize the leadership that we have here, starting with the UNIP National Coordinator, our older brother, Reverend Alfred Banda. I recognize our Media Director, Mr. Max Mue, who has been working very, very hard and requires the support of all of us. I recognize our consultant. I recognize Paul Shalala, of course. Oliver Shalala. Pardon me. I also recognize members of our media team here at the Secretariat, working with Mark, members of the Presidential Support Program media team. Last but most importantly, I welcome all of you from various media houses who have come to cover this press conference. Good morning, everyone. We have just heard about one masquerader who yesterday claimed to be leader of UNIP. The record has been set straight and right with documentary evidence. But there was another masquerader who claimed that Osida attended the press conference yesterday. It is not true. Mr. Bredna Changala did not represent Osida. He represented himself. And he has been representing himself on many fora as such. We are in touch with people from Osida. We contacted them to find out if indeed they attended that press conference. And many of them simply said, "But Father, you know about Changala." We thought that we needed to make that issue known so that people are not misled. Now, allow me to begin by raising a certain point that may seem inconsequential, not important, but it's a very important point. When the Zambian public learned that Uka and Tonse were going to have a press conference in LUSAKA, that was yesterday at Christmas, Mr. Sean Tembo, my brother and Mbuya, was very categorical that they would not associate with leaders who are politically stunted. In other words, leaders who are impotent, leaders who have failed to grow, leaders who have no support on the ground, leaders who wanted to take advantage of the popularity of Tonse by calling a press conference and posing with them. That message is everywhere. Now, Zambians should be asking the following questions. If Mr. Sean Tembo can talk about people in Uka as politically stunted, what does that mean? It means that the leaders in Uka, when we have elections, they have been getting zeros. That's what it means. It means that the leaders in Uka, when we have elections, they have not been participating. It means that the leaders in Uka have no structures on the ground. That we don't know who the provincial chairperson may be for LUSAKA, for Luapula, that they don't have structures, that they are politically inconsequential. That's what he meant. Now, immediately you begin to unpack this issue in that manner, you realize that Mr. Sean Tembo could have been talking about himself. So he was projecting. Because Zambians know who is associated with zeros. Zambians know who has not been participating in by-elections. Zambians know who doesn't even have a single councillor. Zambians know who goes to meetings, goes to a police station when somebody is arrested with only 2 boys holding his phones and posing before a police station and saying to this boy, "You want a police station? Can you start?" Then makes a statement. Zambians know. But he was projecting these things about himself on those leaders in Uka, which is totally unfair. Because no one will believe that when you compare my brother, Mr. Hari Kalava, and Sean Tembo and some people on his side, you can say, my brother Karawa is politically stunted. No one can believe that. Now, why have I made this point? It's to prove what happened later, to prove a point that Tonse actually went. They were represented by my older brother, Mr. Given Luvinda, who made it clear that he was representing the Tonse chairperson, former president, with due respect, President Edgar Chagwalumu. They went to that conference. So then we knew that that conference would be a platform to project things about themselves onto HH, onto the UPND. What are those things they were projecting? The basic message, the synopsis of what went on yesterday at that press conference is that the UPND should not be the ones presiding over the affairs of this country when the constitution is being amended, because they cannot be trusted. You have heard them arguing that HH, President HH, has this motive, hidden agenda to sneak in clauses and not, they talked about proportional representation, delimitation, curing some of the lacunae in the constitution, and so on. You have heard them. This is a projection. Because look at who was sitting with them at that table. Who was sitting with them on that table? They were reminded, the father of Butane. They were reminded, shamelessly, the father of Butane. So when you take HH and put him here, you take the New Dawn government and make them stand here. Then you take Tonse and Uka together, you make them stand here. And you ask the question, who between the two can be trusted? And you qualify trust on the basis of who was cheated before on the issues of the constitution. We know who was cheated before. We know who are the architects of Butane. We know what they wanted to do with Butane. That when they had the meeting in Siavonga and what followed, the message was that we want to do some amendments to the constitution that are progressive. Zambians agreed and UPND agreed and supported the process. When finally the actual amendments were published, it was at that point UPND could not support Bill 10 because you could not cherry pick what could be amended from that list. It was a bill in its entirety that needed to be passed. If it were possible that UPND would say, yes, we agree with this one, we agree with this point, we agree with this point, and we only go ahead with these points, the progressive clauses that were in Bill 10 would have gone through. But that's not how constitutional amendments are done. That's not how they are done. So sitting with them on that day was Tonse Alliance, the fathers and mothers of Bill 10. So far, HH has never embarked on, the New Dawn government has never embarked on a constitutional making process where they claimed that they wanted to do something progressive, but when the clauses were finally published, Zambians realized that UPND had a hidden agenda. UPND, HH doesn't have that record. Let's agree. There's no record. Therefore, the question is, what is the basis for this suspicion? What is the basis for this argument? No basis. What happened on Saturday was a question of desperate politicians trying to get hold of or take advantage of any point that they can use as a rallying point. That's what happened. And what they were saying did not make sense. We have to do some politics today. My brother, who I respect a lot, State Council Sakwiba Scotta, said the constitution should not be amended before 2026 elections until after their team, that team you saw there, until their team are in government. In that team is Tonse. In that team is the PF faction where my brother Mr. Ruvinda belongs. How can you ask people to trust somebody who has cheated them before and not trust somebody who has never cheated them before on this matter of the constitution? How? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So if those people meant well, they should have been calling for dialogue over the process. They should have been calling for enactment of specific clauses that would be good for this country. That's not what they went to do. And to make sure HH does not engage them, doesn't even make an attempt, they abused him a lot. Because they have no interest to dialogue. They have no interest to dialogue. There's a lot to be said. So if they came into power, it will not happen. If they came into power in 2026, you are telling us that that PF faction should be trusted to try to amend the constitution when they have beaten us once and we are 10 times shy. It doesn't make sense. Allow me, in the interest of time, there's a lot we can talk about, but to leave time, I can come back, I'm sure, later on. Allow me to touch on one point. When you look at the demeanor of Dr. Fred Membe at that press conference, you'll be wondering, what troubles this man? What troubles this man? And I'm sure Zambians would agree that the man is driven by hatred for HH. HH didn't close the post, by the way. But the man is driven by hatred towards HH and malice. And the man overrates himself to a point where he thinks that over these constitutional making matters, Zambians will rise and set this country on fire. And HH will run away. And UPND will run away. Then Zambians will say, Tapari winga to take a number, Freddy Membe to take it. That's what the man believes. It will not happen. No Zambian will die because they are saying the constitution should not be amended. No Zambian will die because they are saying the constitution should be amended. And those who are saying those things yesterday have not died because the government went to shoot them or is asking somebody to go and kill them. They will not die. We want to assure them that they will not die. They are not the first ones to oppose a government over issues of making the constitution. As a matter of fact, differences in opinion and so on over this matter should be celebrated. We are a vibrant democracy and people are freely participating. But why is Dr. Fred Membe speaking like that? He is desperate. Because every day he realizes that Zambia is not his newspaper. Every day he realizes that Zambia is not one of his small companies, like the company called the Socialist Party, where he intimidates everyone, tells them, your role here is to listen and to implement. The decisions are for me and a circle of 3 other people, 4 of them, called the Politburo. And he's becoming very desperate. He was a hero at the newspaper. He's not a hero now. That is the desperation you are seeing. But, you know, we need to advise our brothers and sisters. We love them. We may have differences politically, but we love them. And we advise them not to invite foolishly problems upon themselves. We urge Dr. Membe to leave the army, to leave the defense forces alone. These are men and women of very high integrity. that have been there for this country at critical moments. President HH is not issuing any illegal orders to them. And all that the president did was participating in the debate to amend the constitution so that a few things can be achieved. And the popular ones, as you all know, proportional representation, so that we can have a mixed member system in parliament to legally guarantee participation of more women, more youth, people with disabilities. Delimitation, which he has himself talked about openly, so that the big constituencies by population, by geographical size, can be analyzed, evaluated, and possibly divided. Doesn't the president have a right to participate in this debate? Doesn't the Constitution give the president rights even to initiate a Constitution Review Commission? It does. So what is this from Wamembe? Talking about no, the army, the intelligence system, and if you have followed him, you are going to notice that usually he has nothing to say at fora like that. He would usually want to say something that would be controversial and touch the army, who have nothing to do with this. Our men and women in uniform have been doing an excellent job. And under the UPND, for the first time, we are even having ZNS building an airport in Akonde. And the money they will make will come to us. And that will grow the capacity of ZNS. And we are sure they will do a good job. What will stop this government from saying ZNS now develop the capacity? Everything else, that kind of infrastructure, should be done by them. So let them leave the defense forces alone. No ama problems, yengi ama problems muchalo. He should leave the army alone. As a matter of fact, what he said does not make him popular. It makes people wonder. Shubamdala baba bashani. Bamdala baba bashani. Finally, if Tonse, Uka, and their friends who are masquerading mean well, they should have agreed amongst themselves. We are accusing HH of trying to amend the constitution to raise his term from, that's how they are putting it, from 5 to 7. Since these things cannot be done in secrecy, why don't we wait until that list is out? Then we can tell the people, if it were never, they are not doing that. All they are saying is that no amendments to the constitution before 2026 because HH will win. That's what they are saying. And we want to tell them that HH has won the hearts of Zambians by hitting the ground running. HH has won the hearts of Zambians by increasing CDF so that it can make decentralization a reality. HH has won the hearts of the people by not amending the constitution, but by achieving debt restructuring. So that the government has more headroom to invest more money in infrastructure, provide free education, and so on. HH has won the hearts of the Zambian people by humbling himself as a servant of the people, going to China, securing a market for soybeans for our farmers, who only a few years ago complained, and justifiably so, because FRA could not buy all the soybeans. HH has won the hearts of the people by providing essential services, cash for work. You can name them. At a time when all things seem to be against this government because of the drought. He didn't do that by amending the constitution. He did that by praying to God, by asking Zambians to pray so it would have rain, and rain came. And when it rains, you are somewhere near Dr. Membe, you look at his face, then you can see that the man is bitter. Because those people didn't want Zambia to have rain, because they knew that the situation was going to compound our economic problems. And who was going to be blamed? HH. It will not work. Let them continue discussing the proposed amendments. Let them freely participate in this debate. They can have as many press conferences as they want, but let them stop lying. And let them stop quoting the Bible with the same mouths that are lying. You are lying that HH wants to get rid of the clause in the Constitution to have a running mate. You are lying. You are lying that he doesn't want 50% plus 1. He beat you using 50% plus 1. So he will win because he has won the hearts of Zambians, not because the Constitution will be amended. In conclusion, on this leg, allow me to share something on a lighter note. I called a few people on the UCA and Tonse Alliance. I said to them, Rane, if you truly believe that the people are against amending the Constitution and HH is adamant his government wants to go ahead, why don't you celebrate that? Why don't you allow him to do it? Because then he will lose the election next year. Because he will have done what the people don't want. Then he said, politician. You are speaking as if you are not a politician. We know that that's not what he wants to do. We know that it's proportional representation. We know that he wants more women and youth and people with disabilities to participate. I said, what is wrong with that? That will be celebrated in the ballot box. That's where it will be celebrated. So we have to stop him. So you see, when you speak to them behind the scenes, the agenda is known and people are seeing through this. I thank you for now.
Thank you very much. And as I indicated earlier, when we were just beginning, I did allude to the fact that we are going to be joined by the UPND consultants, my brother, Oliver Shaka, who also add his voice to this debate. It is your time, my brother.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to have everyone here today and for us to have this dialogue because it is nothing but dialogue. It's not monologue, us speaking to you. It's us also listening to what you have to say, both as the fourth estate, as well as to those who are watching us on various platforms, as well as those who are listening to us on radio and so on. I wish to recognize the presence of Reverend Alfred Banda, the Vice President of UNIP, Comrade National Coordinator. Yes. Then the presence of Comrade Frank Walia, a very talented, I still call him young man, very eloquent, experienced, educated, speaking from experience. He's a director. I'm seated between two directors within our party system. I feel dwarfed right now, but privileged to sit in front here and speak. Also on my left is Mr. Max Moe, no stranger to any of us, our media director. When we announced that we would have this press conference, I think the first thing that we saw was a bit of our friends being jittery, saying, why are you being reactive? Why are you speaking soon after the press conference by the group of opposition party members? We are not speaking because we are being reactive. I think we are being strategic. Firstly, we want to make sure we are very current. I'm just speaking in terms of process and a bit of content, but I'll leave the majority of the content with my director. But I wanted just to mention, to say, first and foremost, if this was misplaced as an event, we wouldn't have this turnout. I've counted roughly 43 cameras streaming or either recording. Obviously, we should have like another 30 people writing, if only those who are watching us could see what is at the back. So that turnout is a show of confidence from the fourth estate, and we wish to also tell you you are serious partners under the leadership of Media Director Max Muwe, with my support, under the leadership of the Presidential Support Media Team and Director, Comrade Frank Walai. We shall work together in a much stronger way from now onwards. Coming to the actual talking points, I think one of the takeaways that will come from this briefing will come from my director. He will give you what you've been asking for, which is what is the roadmap? When are we getting drafts to and so on? I think he'll be able to speak. He's my senior, so he'll be able to give you that. But more importantly, I think my mission here is very simple, just to reiterate the small points, which is firstly, that a constitution is a living document. Secondly, governance and the country itself is quite dynamic. We cannot have the same constitution now which we had in 1972. From the time we had independence in 1964, we've had challenges in terms of the constitution. Most of the times when we have a process to define what we want as we the people, what would happen is the government in place would be jittery to push certain clauses. But with time, most of the progressive clauses have since been pushed in, while some remain outside. So as a UPND ruling party, we believe that those that are supposed to be pushed, which remain, and the major ones being proportional representation, and also curing the lacunas that allow for perpetual by-elections or postponement of elections, which are quite costly, those should be addressed in this process. So that's why we are looking at a process that will be consultative and will go on. So first and foremost, before you can have a proper constitution-making process, there are values that you should have. Those values underpin the process and the content. The three major values that we have placed in this process are: one, being honesty; secondly, being transparent; and thirdly, being accountable. Transparent in everything we are doing. From the time that the president announced there's this process, we are being transparent. The Minister of Justice was in Parliament speaking to this. And like I mentioned, you'll be told today, roughly when we expect the roadmap to be out and probably the first working document to be out. We've been accountable to you in that we are listening. Even us being here is part of the accountability, in the sense that if there are any misgivings that are out there, we'll be able to respond. I think you've been complaining that sometimes we don't get to you that quickly or on time. So by being here, we are being timely and doing our best. The last one is being honest. So we've been very honest in terms of a party, and we've insisted that, one, the clauses that are being touted as going to be there are not going to be there. My colleagues have mentioned we are not looking as a party to sponsor any changes in terms of the 50% plus one vote. That will remain. We are not looking at removing the running mate clause in the constitution. That will remain. We are not looking at changing the term of the president from 5 years to whatever period. That will remain. We are not looking at limiting the terms of the president from 2 to another number of terms. That will remain at 2. So we are looking at those progressive clauses. Our friends do not believe that it's possible we can be doing that, but we are being honest with you, and as the process will show, we'll remain honest in that. So to just close on that, I wish to say constitutionalism is a continuous process. There's no timing that you can say this is good, this is bad timing. Our colleagues yesterday were saying that they reject the process before 2026. However, I don't know whether they understand the limitation has to be done every 10 years. It's due January 2026. And if you look at the constitution, it talks about 156 constituencies. If we have to do the limitation after the elections, it means the additional constituencies cannot be covered, but they have to be done before the election. If we have to do the changes after the election next year, it means we cannot bring in the women and youth before after the election. So those have to be done before. However, the whole process will be transparent. Everybody will be given a chance to put, and there's enough time for us to complete. You can be assured that, one, will be very transparent, two, will be very accountable, and lastly, will be very honest. Thank you very much.
So we're exchanging because we want to avoid moving mics, huh? Yes, thank you very much. So you bear with us. Thank you very much, Reverend the Frank Warrior, for your output and also for your assistance in adding your voice to this national debate. So perhaps in summing up, friends, you may be aware that we take the words from the Reverend very seriously, especially from the point of view of UPND. We only accept the very fact that there are a lot of areas where we agree, and it is interesting that the Reverend went straight to their party constitution to look at those principles that tend to agree with the UPND constitution. And that is perhaps the reason we have in our manifesto the idea of improving CDF, which is pro-people or focuses on the poor people. Thank you very much. And as he has rightly indicated, soon we'll be having official ceremonies to publicly sign our MOU with UNIP and many other political parties as alliance partners. In due time or in due course, that announcement will be made. Thank you very much, Father Frank Walia, for also bringing to light what we did not know about our old man, Mr. Changala. Some of us were made to believe they are CSOs, but it's good that you've brought that to light. And also the illegal composition, as the Reverend has indicated, of a person who masquerades as a UNIP leader and yet not. So that is something that now the media has to digest. Allow me at this point, friends, to quickly get to specifics, then I'll be ending, allow for friends to give us questions. We had colleagues that met yesterday to speak to the nation on something that is not new. And I want to be very specific to the issues that they raised and then conclude on what we believe could be the right way to go. Number one of the things that they raised, they talked about rejecting of any constitutional amendment before 2026. You may recall that we made it clear in our previous pressers that the power to amend or to make laws is vested in the legislature, the National Assembly, if you may want. And that Constitution 2 of the Constitution of Zambia vests that power in the legislature. The executive do not make laws, except for delegated legislation. Delegated legislation is that law which allows for certain office bearers or institutions away from the National Assembly to come up with certain laws that are binding, like the local authorities. So what Parliament would do, friends, is they will enact a law maybe in the Local Government Act. Then instead of, from time to time, whenever the local government ministry would want to alter the rules of engagement, maybe there is a disease or another activity, they go back to Parliament. Parliament has allowed the minister to sign statutory instruments, okay? The power given to that minister by the National Assembly. Other delegated powers examples could be commissions, where they will undertake appointments and recruitment on behalf of the president. Are we together?
Yes.
Now, I should be quick to mention that power vested in the National Assembly said, it therefore means that we should not be scared of President HH or manipulating anything, because he does not sit in Parliament. He does not legislate. In any case, the UPND do not form 2/3 majority required to amend the Constitution. It therefore means other numbers to support any amendment to come from the opposition, political parties, or indeed independent members of Parliament. I should also be quick to mention that for them to claim that they reject the amendments before 2026 is very strange to some of us. They are talking about upholding our democratic principles and protecting the Constitution, but they are violating it by telling Parliament not to enact laws. Which power is given to the National Assembly from the time MPs are sworn in up to the time of dissolution of Parliament? They want to publicly take away those rights by decree through a press conference. As the president would say, I corner. Okay, so we can't do that. They are the ones violating the constitution, if anything. Then the next issue that they raised, as you may have followed, where they are agreeing with the letter by 3 church mother bodies, last some CSOs. Of course, one CSO has been eliminated because there was someone who was sitting there illegally. So I want to talk about CSA more. But I should go straight to mention that it is not the first time that institutions like LAS are opposing certain things. They have always been opposing. In any case, constitution making process is not for LAS, it's for the people of Zambia. That is why even when they oppose, you still go ahead. LAS does not also legislate. They also come in terms of supporting the development as provided by an act which establishes LAS to support the development of law and justice in the country. So what they would speak out is an opinion which can be accepted or rejected by the people of Zambia.
Or misguided.
Exactly. Thank you very much for that addition. Now, so the issue of them agreeing with some individuals, it doesn't hold water in any way. In any case, in a democracy, you must agree to disagree. There is no law-making or constitutional making process in the world where people unanimously agree to amend the constitution, not to one country. If there was one, do you know what could have happened? The constitution could have provided for the whole National Assembly in terms of numbers to amend the constitution. But do you know why it talks about 2/3? Because the people that drafted the constitution do understand that some people within parliament do oppose. So opposing is part of democracy. So if they are opposing, that's fine. But then that doesn't stop any process. I should further also mention that they are also alleging issues of deceitful approach to constitutional reforms. Now, if they talk about deceitful approach, they have not demonstrated any, except they have been discussing suspicion, which we have rebutted. We have told them, if you have a document somewhere which you claim has been published in your absence or without citizens, can you make it public to journalists? They have not been able to do that. So the question is, who is lying between them and ourselves? As Father Frank Banda said, they are the ones lying, cheating citizens. You should also remind them that show us at least even a list of people that are sitting. I want to say this, friends. To amend or to draft the constitution is not something that you can do. You just gather maybe 100 lawyers and they sit down to draft the constitution. Drafting is a serious skill. In this country, we may have maybe 2 or 3 drafters of the constitution. For your record. So to claim that someone sat and they started drafting the constitution is alien. Even themselves, they will tell you that they are not the ones that were involved fully in drafting the constitution. There are people that are specialized in drafting. So the allegation of deceitful approach are neither here nor there. They are merely propaganda coming from people that have nothing to offer to electorates. And time is catching up with them. I feel for them. By now, if they were serious, they could have been either be talking about things that they would want to see in the constitution, or they could have been talking about the things that they would want to sell to the people of Zambia. The other thing that they raised, they made reference to the contradictions and all those things, and they want to ride on that. Then they also raised issues of where Honorable Milambo Haimbe appeared on a media house and they talked about 2021. And then he said they are saying there's confusion within the UPND because there's no consensus. There's no such a thing as confusion. Sometimes in law, it is also dependent on the choice of words. Sometimes you can be caught off guard because of one word that you used. But it has to be made very clear. There is no document that is in black and white. The president has already demonstrated from the law reforms that are already being undertaken, such as the Electoral Process Act. The people that gathered yesterday to cheat citizens were a part of the process. They have made submissions already to the Electoral Commission of Zambia, which they would want to see in the new Electoral Process Act amendment. The whole group. But they are not telling citizens that even when they made those submissions, there has never been a time when they addressed you, the press, where they were consulting citizens. Where did they get submissions from? Because they are part of the process. Secondly, there is this intention, seeking to establish the Public Gathering Act. They are part of the people that submitted. They've never, have you ever seen them even having a meeting in Chiboria, consulting people of Chiboria? I don't think so. I've never seen one. But they have made submissions for your record. So go and follow them. Ask them if there is insincerity in that inclusive process. Because from the time the president gave his first inaugural speech, it was very clear that whatever law reform we shall undertake will not be devoid of inclusivity. There will be consensus, people will agree. But even when there is consensus, there will still be people that will disagree. That is what democracy is all about. They are also raising other issues where they are claiming that the other thing has been addressed by Father Frank Bwada, the 5 to 7 year. We will not get into the details because people have to debate about them, assuming that they are put on the table for debate. They are basically also referring to Article 259, where they are claiming that the Constitution, I want you to see the lies, already takes care of women, the marginalized in society, under Article 259. Now, if that is the case, and Article 259 is sufficient to cure what all of us have been concerned about, issues to do with women representation and youth representation. If I thought the Constitution ably deals with that, why did they include it in the Bill 10 draft?
Why did they include it?
Why did they include it? That's a question you need to ask them. Now, this is where lying comes in. That's total deception, friends. Let me say this. Article 258, when it comes to the president, remember I talked about delegated powers. Those of you who are standing here and are students of law, perhaps administrative law, you do well understand that the principle around delegated powers is that when power has been delegated, it cannot be exercised by a person who delegated it. In the Bill 10, part of the proposals our friends made was to abolish commissions. Now, commissions exercise delegated powers and in a way provide an oversight role. Now, because of their deceitfulness, they believe UPND swims in the same, but we are different. I'm sure many of you may have forgotten that they believe it is, I'm sure I've seen someone writing that this is another Bill 10, but they are writing to nothing. They are not speaking to any documents. So we may excuse them. But in case you've forgotten, I want to remind you, as Father Frank Bwada indicated that, they are saying, do not amend it. We want it to amend ourselves because they are saying in 2026 we are going, not so. They are saying in 2026, that is the assumption they have, that they are going. And I've told you that ECA was in 2016, was in State House with about 22,000 votes. He lost by 1.8 million. Tell me in which country such a person won again elections. Tell me, go online and show me. If he is giving an example of Donald Trump, check by what margin Donald Trump lost. 1.8 million is not a joke to lose by that margin. It is not actually a landslide, it's an earthquake. So that is something that we need to deal with. But then the point I want to also drive home, that is, you are talking about this Article 259. Let me demonstrate to you. Currently, the active missions that we have, Father Bwada and the Reverend, together with the UPND consultant, we have about 40 missions in the world, 40 embassies. Huh? It is the first time we are having, I don't know about from independence time. From 1991, we are having a head of state getting youths, 6 from each province, the whole country, to go into foreign mission. You've never heard this, but I want to tell you. Huh? Then out of that, about 50% have gone into foreign mission. It is the first time you're hearing that, for those of you that do not know. Now, the president is only acting using certain institutions with his team based on the limits that he has. What he cannot do, for example, is to force teachers, or people there, maybe they are competing for a particular position, those who are applying, to force them to pick a female at all costs because there will be no provision. And then he is not the one who employs. Another institution's delegated powers employs. He can't exercise such powers. In other words, the president is limited. Even in the constitution, when you go to the National Assembly, it will limit him on how many he will put there. How many women, Now, go to permanent secretaries, because that is another power that he may enjoy. Go to Ministry of SMEs, you find a woman there. Go to Ministry of Education, you find a woman there. PS, I'm talking about permanent secretaries. Go to Ministry of Community Development, you find a woman there. State functions, permanent secretaries, you find a woman there. Go around all ministries, you see how he's balancing in terms of women's representation. Now, the constitution will limit him to those public positions. But he cannot go into recruitment, because under the teachers, there is teaching commission. Teaching service commission. Yes. Under other institutions, there is maybe public service commission, who are enjoying delegated powers. And remember, the principle is that delegated legislation requires that the power that has been delegated cannot be exercised by one who has delegated it. Do you get the point? And that is the principle. So, this provision is inadequate. That is why there are no consequences here. When it talks about marginalized in society, okay, you talk about persons living with disabilities, you were there as media houses, covering the swearing in of some persons living with disabilities at the State House when this government took over leadership. Have you forgotten that? The president could limit his power. It could only be limited in terms of exercising his powers to constitutional provisions. Now, there is no law which says there should be 50% of women in the National Assembly. Do you know the reason? The reason is simple. There is no compelling law which says it is a must that there should be a woman, because people will decide who to vote for. So there should be a law which should be in black and white, that regardless of the voter turnout, and that law should be addressing our convention, the UN Convention on Gender Equality, which is affirmative action or positive discrimination. That law should lower the bar for women, and that law is only proportional representation, where the law can even provide, if those political parties that have presence in the National Assembly, the law may say all those should submit the numbers that should meet 50% threshold. We don't have such a law. So why are our friends cheating the nation? So we have challenged them. We can be sincere with the debate, and we call them to an open debate. In fact, we can have this team. Let them maintain that team that met yesterday, and let us have a debate. Let's see who is going to speak the truth. Just this team you are seeing here, and the team that met yesterday. In fact, the first one to run away will be given Lubinda, because he was justice minister. In case you have forgotten, let me wind up. I know much of your time has been taken. I'm sure you are aware that what we are using is the 1991 Constitution, not so. As amended in 1996. Now, tell me, after 2020, after 1991, when else did we have elections? 19 what? 96. Now, that the Constitution was amended in the election year. Why are they not talking about it? Because people respected legislative powers vested in the National Assembly. Again, we amended the Constitution, the 2016 Constitution. Why is it called 2016? When was the election for Israel? 2016. Have we forgotten? It was amended in 2016, friends. When did we have elections? 2016. Now, we are a year before that time. Someone is saying it's too late. Who told you? And then we have told them that if you say it is too late, I even challenged the Law Association of Zambia. Give us a law which says it's too late. They've gone into hiding. No, we can't lower the bar of debates in that manner. If we are advancing the issue of too late, let us show the people the law which says it's too late. I can guarantee you they will not quote one. In fact, I want to say this. Yes, bring it, please.
Chapter 1 Foundation was on Radio Phoenix, Let the People Talk, on Friday. And they emphasized what Zambians want to hear about is how you are going to lower the cost of living and so on, not about the constitution. On the same program, we were informed that Chapter 1 Foundation was having in the afternoon a conference at Mulungushi International Conference Center. Not to talk about the cost of living, but to talk about the constitution. So they should talk about the constitution, we shouldn't. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you very much. Now, you see, this is how balanced the platform is. We are consulting each other. Now, those guys are disorganized. You get to say the least. You see, to say the least. So let me end by saying, in a few weeks from now, government will announce to you the roadmap. Are we together? This is a political party. That's how organized we are. We can't tell you the date even if we are aware of it. We want the right office to tell you. Remember, all bills that go to parliament are initiated by the executive, not from Tonse or Ukwa. So that should be made very clear. They are initiated by the executive. So now, instead of us wasting time, because we have already demonstrated, it's called the 2016 Constitution Amendment number 2, and there were elections in that year. That's when we enacted it. It's called the Amendment, 1996 Amendment. There was elections in that year. The Constitution was amended. Huh? So we should not deceive each other. They are the ones who amended it in 2016. Today they are coming around to tell you, and they are speaking in tongues. Icona. I think we
emptied also in 2020.
Yes, that's what I was telling you. See how balanced it is? In 2021, 6 months before the election, they were debating about beauty. So now, the argument that they have about time is empty. Many youths actually want to be included. I heard youths even telling me that, in fact, some of the young leaders that we have in parliament, most of them are just skilled in insults. We want to represent ourselves because we are wasting time on social media appealing on what we want to see in our governance system. We want to be part of it. And the president do well understand that in 2021, the vast majority of the youths voted for change. He has to listen to them. I thank you. So, the deputy media director is here. He has come. Thank you very much. May you stand up, Mr. Stula. He was out. He was in Kabwe. He was in Southern and traversing the ground. And
yeah, I don't believe I have anything further to say than to augment that what has been said here is ground moving. It is ground moving. It is very easy to defend President Hakainde Hichilema. You know why? Because he's truthful. It's very easy to defend somebody who's truthful. You can't go having headaches, cooking lies every night and day because there are twists and turns every day in your speeches. You can't. So what has been said here, yeah, sure. What has been said here is what it is. And we move as such. Bwana Director, you have eloquently summarized this. I have no further.
Thank you. We actually consult each other. Now it's time for questions from our media friends. Yeah, you are free to ask questions and to be taken by any of the members in front. No, we have colleagues that are streaming. We are cognizant all the time. Yes, we have a hand there. Yes. Tell us the media you're coming from. Okay.
Good afternoon, panelists.
Yes, my comrade.
My name is Mishek Mungeri Mirongo. The question that I have, two questions. The first one is, even as much as a country we've embraced democracy as a governance system, where we have the opposition party and the opposition's agenda is always to criticize and oppose. The question is this bringing any development? And would you advocate for a governance system that puts development as an agenda and unit? The second question goes to the Reverend. Too many factions in UNIP. Critics are saying you are fighting because UNIP as a party has got a lot of properties. How true is that?
Okay, so that is a question based on the first one. The next one? Yes, my brother.
Thank you so much. My name is Blessed Jerry from Diamond TV. Now, from the time this started, key issues from the side that has been opposing the constitutional amendment has been that, number one, Zambians have rejected the amendment. And then the second one has been that the UPND is imposing the constitutional amendment on the Zambians. What is your take on these statements as a party? Thank you.
Okay, the third one. Okay, I think we could take these. Maybe we start with the Reverend.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bishop Mungeli Nyirongo, for your question. Too many factions in UNIP. Could it be that these factions are fighting because of properties? Just to give you a brief synopsis of the United National Independence Party with regards to investment. Our founding fathers Dr. Kaunda, Grey Zulu, Nalumino Mundia, Kapwepo, just to mention but a few, were far-sighted leaders. They invested in assets, which in their wisdom believed was going to help UNIP in future. They even came up in 1964 with an enterprise which is still functioning up to now, called Zambia National Holdings Limited, as a holding company for UNIP investment. Their intentions were noble, but over the years, there have been, for sure, opportunistic elements who didn't mean well. And they began selling some of these assets. They began using some of these assets for personal gain. And we began seeing also some becoming reluctant to relinquish leadership. But at this point, we should commend one leader, Lieutenant Colonel Henry Muyoba, who has come on board with a pure agenda to stop this lot. You will be interested to note that very soon, my acting Secretary General is here. You can give me the date. Very soon there will be a case. In fact, part of this ruling, which I've showed you, there will be a case before this very judge regarding the illegal sale of party assets. So in a nutshell, this is coming to an end. We want to put a stop to this, and we have a leader in the person of Lieutenant Colonel Henry Muyoba, who has resolved that UNIP assets should benefit the party. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you. Thank you. For the front warrior.
I like the name Mungeli, which means an angel. May that name become common in Zambia.
Amen.
Now, is the debate that we are having bringing development? Perhaps the question should be, does the Constitution foster development? Does Zambia, not to talk about other countries, does Zambia need a strong constitution, a good constitution to develop? The answer is yes. We know what is in the Constitution. The Constitution establishes institutions, including ministries. The Constitution guarantees stability of a country, separation of powers between the three arms of government. These things are constitutional guarantees. So I think it is clear that we need a constitution, and to develop that constitution should be strong. It confirms what the president has been saying, that in order to develop, or to promote, should I say, to promote the participation of women, even in development itself, this has to be guaranteed. And the sure way to guarantee it is through the constitution. So young people know, more of them can participate, bring their ideas to parliament to grow the economy, People living with disabilities know that when there is that constitutional guarantee, they can participate and ensure that they talk about those issues that sometimes we take for granted. So there is a clear link between development and a constitution. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I know none of you are chasing your news time. Then we'll be quick to mention also to add that in addition to what Father Frank has indicated, how does it bring development? You may wish to know that the National Assembly is a creature of statutes. Your budget, which builds roads, provides money for all the sectors, is contained in the Constitution. Money cannot be spent without going to the National Assembly. Which means if the National Assembly is established by the Constitution, then it does. A lot has been said. Recruitments. How many government intends to recruit? You've heard the Minister of Finance on the floor of Parliament seeking ratification from the National Assembly that this is what government has proposed. Government, in terms of, in a narrower sense, the executive takes a proposal that government has proposed so much money, and that has to do with development. I think that has been answered. Lastly, let me deal with the issue of Zambians have rejected the amendments, UPND is imposing amendments. Now, I want to turn it around. What is the difference between those who are saying Zambians have rejected the amendments and those who are saying Zambians once youths have agreed that youths and women must be included? What is the difference? Have you ever seen them going around the country? I don't think you saw one. But we are all aware that just like Michael Sata, President Michael Sata, this constitution he called 2016 constitution, he simply woke up and said, there will be no submissions. Are you listening, friends? There will be no submissions. I have appointed a committee, citizens already submitted. The Muwamba CRC will be the basis. So what we were looking for in the draft was to check whether what was in the Muwamba CRC has been included. 50% plus what was in the Muwamba CRC. We heard our friends quoting commissions, which they don't even understand in some cases. So,
and in case some people have forgotten, Mr.
Yes.
Sata was leader of PF.
Yes, he was a leader. That's a very good ingredient, Father. He was leader of PF. You get the point? Did they consult? Only to the extent that they picked a document that reflected submissions from the people of Zambia. President Church has not told you that there will be no consultation. It is themselves who are creating that agenda. And they are forming it as a center for debate. So, I think we end there. Unless we still have... So, we recognize the lawmaker from Luena, the MP here, a lawmaker. But because we are organized, we will not allow him to speak. Because, wait a minute. Because we are organized, yes, we will not allow him to speak because they know what we have agreed. Yes, there is a hand, yes.
The last one.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ketiwe.
Who?
Ketiwe.
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 Yes. Yes. I would say my question is actually in relation to the earlier statements that actually came out in the media in regards to amendment constitution. Let me say the alleged different positions that came from the party and the government, the UPND and the government regarding constitutional reform. And then looking at the way things are actually going, we've actually come open to start clarifying those misinformation and yes, that you actually feel there was some misinformation and all that. From your like-minded, I would, for lack of a better term, I would say your like-minded stakeholders, feel you people are not actually up to the task of handling or correcting the misconceptions that have actually come as a result of the constitutional reform. So I would like to get a comment from you on how you make these statements. Thank you.
I think I can volunteer on that one. That's an opinion, and this is the beauty of democracy. This is the first time you can ask that question. No cadres will follow you outside. There won't be anyone following you. So it's an opinion. I think it's fine. It ends there. We don't have to react to an opinion.
Okay, it's a question. Okay. Father Frank, any submission?
I think we have made it clear. We have made it clear that our friends in Uka and Tonse and a few other people they have recruited, their surrogates and so on, we will keep twisting what we say, what the president says, because they are short of rallying points. It's as simple as that. So when the president says, for instance, how can somebody convince you to go and demonstrate against proposed amendments to the Constitution without showing you or without proving to you that government has this document, and in that document they actually want to remove 50% plus 1? How do you get convinced? That was the point the president was making. The president never said or meant to say, we have a draft. These people have not seen the draft because we are still holding on to it. So don't be convinced until you see the draft. No, the president was saying there is no need to demonstrate. This is premature because these people have even failed to demonstrate to you by quoting a document or providing a document that we intend to change the term for the president from 5 years to 7 years. So they will keep twisting things. That's why we protest when they quote scripture. Of course, we know that the devil can also quote scripture. But we protest because yesterday they quoted scripture a lot and lied a lot.
Thank you. I think that